All right, apparently we are still speed running this thing here at Gamers Without Borders for day number 2 because we only have one series left, and it is another qualifying match to move a player straight on towards Gamers 8 later on down the line. Joining me to now talk about actually the TVT, phew, sweat off the brow, we've got Fear Dragon as well as Cats. As Cats looks into the distance, so there is always that moment where I'm worried that he doesn't hear me, but he does because he's just memeing me.
I am just admiring the Calaris Dome.
The Calaris, thank you, thank you. Rotterdam called it small. You guys defended it. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you, Cats.
No problem.
Okay. The Calaris Dome aside, we have got ourselves the TVT coming up here. It's the world champion, Oliveira, going up against HeroMarine. Let's talk about it. Fear Dragon, starting with yourself. It's always good to get, again, see Oliveira here on a stage like this, because yesterday, actually, he brought out some kind of mad scientist stuff, I want to say. He looked great in his victory, moving on into this match here. And you know what? I want to see more mad scientist stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the story of Oliveira yesterday was that we were kind of waiting to see, like, okay, but is Oliveira Katowice Oliveira? And he's like, actually, yeah, I'm really freaking good at this game. It's actually just kind of bopped Lambo 2-0 in a really, really dominating fashion. But I think it's really cool. I think this matchup is actually going to be especially interesting to me, because to me, this is like unexpected player breakout from Katowice 2023 versus the unexpected player breakout of 2022, which was HeroMarine, who made a super deep run in that Katowice. It's going to be kind of interesting to see them clashing against each other now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other Terrans that beat Maru in Katowice 2023, and it was only these two. But anyway, Cats, what are your thoughts coming into this one? HeroMarine versus Oliveira.
It should be a very close match. I mean, the HeroMarine even beat Oliveira, if I'm not mistaken, in the group stages as well, right? So, yeah, it is. I think they're very evenly matched. I think they're both incredibly strong Terrans. I will say stylistically, Oliveira did bring some mad scientist stuff yesterday, and that is awesome. But HeroMarine has always been outspoken about wanting to play against weird stuff, against wanting to play against like a strange aggression, right? Like he is comfortable adapting. Whereas Lambo, yeah, he's comfortable adapting to some degree, but I think his greatest strength is in preparation and just kind of understanding very methodically how to break down a build and how to exactly respond, and you know, working with very exact thresholds and such, which a build like Oliveira did yesterday doesn't really leave him any time to really study and figure out those thresholds, right? So I think HeroMarine will be a little bit better prepared for any shenanigans that Oliveira might bring, but that's not to say that he will necessarily win, because Oliveira is capable of a perfectly standard game and doing great at it.
And also, I mean, on the flip side of that, I don't think HeroMarine is completely, it's not out of his wheelhouse as well to maybe throw in a spanner in the works as well. We've seen him kind of mix it up a little bit more recently compared to sometimes when it was just very formulaic from HeroMarine. But anyway, gentlemen, thank you. I'm getting word that the players are ready because we had a long interview. They were ready to go. We're getting into things. So without further ado, it's the final series of the day here. It is going to be our TVT, the world champion Oliveira, going up against HeroMarine.
Welcome everyone to the final match, Oliveira versus HeroMarine, another great best of 5 TVT. I am casting alongside Roddy for this one. What are your thoughts, Roddy?
My thoughts are fireworks, Zombie Grow, because I think yesterday we all got spoiled a little bit, where almost every single series delivered. Today is maybe a little bit of a reality check for all of us that not every single series of StarCraft can always be fantastic, but hopefully we saved the best for last. I think on paper it's a very interesting match. We saw Gabe play TVT yesterday versus Spirit, and I'm sure it wasn't an easy win, but it was a very impressive win because he was in a couple of very gnarly positions, and especially game 2 on Gresvan, I actually unmuted myself. I was like, this game is about to end, I'm gonna do some analysis, but he actually brought it back, won with 3 bases against 5 bases, so I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be good, and I also know that Gabe, even before that amazing IEM Katowice victory, already had Oliveira in very high regards. Like, I never forget, I made a power ranking once of the foreign scene, just for fun. I had too much time on my hands, and I think I put him at like rank 7 in the entire foreign scene, and before Katowice I thought that's pretty high, and then Gabe looked at it, he's like, oh, it's pretty good ranking, but time is way better than that. Back then he was still time, so he kind of knew, I hate to say it, but Gabe kind of knew that that man was capable of magic.
Yeah, something that I alluded to, in fact, yesterday, I believe, that, you know, it's Oliveira post Katowice Championship, sure, but it's also just Oliveira, who's always been highly ranked. But let's get into this best of 5, starting off on Royal Blood. In the bottom left for Team Mouse, he is HeroMarine.
And in the top right side of Royal Blood, we are looking at the main base of the world champion of StarCraft 2 in the year 2023, representing, well, previously KZ Gaming, now it's DKZ Gaming. This is Oliveira.
New and improved, comboed up team. Very scary for team leagues, but just him on his own, 1v1 HeroMarine. Typically, Oliveira is favored versus him, has been for the last year, and I think generally over their entire career. But it's very close, and I think every game they've played against each other has also been very close. But it was also HeroMarine who kind of really was the first step to Oliveira's run in Katowice, starting off in the round of 12, where Oliveira took him down 3-1. That's the freshest memory for them both.
Yep, and obviously Gabe is still thinking about that series. Probably felt a little bit better afterwards. I think initially was very disappointed when the round of 12 was his exit after that great round of 4 in the previous year of IM Katowice. But then when he saw that the man he lost to ended up winning it all, it's like, well, at least I lost to the actual champ, and there is no shame in never losing to the champ. We know that Gabe plays non-stop 24/7. The man streams a lot, he talks a lot, and what I did enjoy as well, listening to him a little bit on one of the streams that he had, one of the many streams since Katowice, is that he said that Oliveira's victory in a way also inspired him. Even though he's been there, done that, and he's been around for so long, it's just that what he's always dreamed of, Oliveira showed that it is possible for the likes of Oliveira and for the likes of Gabe, you know, just to one-time peak when it truly matters the most. And I think that was very awesome to hear, and I can totally understand it as well, right? It's what all these pro gamers dream of, but more often than not, it is Maru or Saru or Hero that ends up winning it all, but it doesn't have to be like that, and I thought it was very cool.
Yeah. As much as it is very touching for the speech to kind of appeal to everyone, anyone can do this. I'm just a normal man, is what he said, right? You know, it probably more realistic that the talking to the potential people who are next up to do the same thing are the guys who are still making the round of 12, certainly getting into Katowice, right? And that certainly is HeroMarine, who certainly would love to go on and actually win Katowice. They got so close in the previous year, but yeah, I think we've said a lot about their stories leading up to this moment. How about their builds? Both respectful TVT builds so far. The only difference I can see now is HeroMarine actually going into those reactored Hellions.
Yep, and he's actually just going to sit at home. If he gets the first volley off here, that's obviously going to be a very easy fight for Gabe. If we take a look at the mini-map there, as we took a look at his vision, HeroMarine has scouted very little, but he will be able to get these first shots off. Gets awfully close to getting the kill on that heli and won't quite be able to get it, but this really is some trademark TVT from Gabe. I see it a lot on a Monday night. First few minutes, the man does not really scout. He kind of checks for the most nearby proxies, like just in case it is Marauders running his way, but that's pretty much the only scouting he does, and then he just kind of waits, and if his opponent reveals anything, well, that is HeroMarine also scouting, because he will know immediately what is and what is not possible based on the units that he sees on his side of the map.
HeroMarine not once usually go for a truly risky build that would be in a terrible spot if you don't scout. For instance, a 1-Rax expand. If you're proxy 2-Rax, you don't scout. It's tough. So HeroMarine usually also doing the likes of the Reaper and the Hellion openers. In this case, with the reactored Hellion opener, you are pretty much safe against everything else that is early game, but you do want to try and get something done in return, which Oliveira is just simply shutting down hard with the Cyclone and the tank already sieged up. HeroMarine not going to find any damage. His army supply might look pretty good, but 6 Hellions aren't going to be worth much as the TVT continues.
I know they say that the soup never lies, but that seems a little inflated to me. I have a hard time believing that Gabe is very happy with all the Hellions he made at this point, but of course you don't just have to throw them away. At this point he's probably just going to wait, use them for a bit of map control, a little bit of map presence, and if there is ever an opening for these Hellions to go for it, he will still send it, but at this point it's pointless to run into a Cyclone and a tank. You just, at the very best, you're gonna get one of those units, but even that is kind of unlikely.
Yeah. So wait a little while later, and maybe you can slip in and kill, 10 SEVs, and even if it's 3 bases, that's still a decent amount. Definitely don't just give them away. Also, a little bit of that map presence. They can't contest whatever they're facing, but they can at least do some scouting. And we do continue on into the next stage of TVT. With these two, I do expect, if we go to 5 games, there to be 5 games of Marine Tank versus Marine Tank. However, they both have been slipping in maybe a mech every once in a while here, Marine certainly. And then that double starport. has definitely been slipping into TVT more often. So bio versus bio for every game, definitely possible. 1 or 2 cheeky builds, maybe actually from HeroMarine, even though Oliveira was being kind of cheeky yesterday, would not surprise me.
No, I'm totally with you. And I gotta say, I think Gabe is very good in both playing with Mac and playing against Mac. Even though I definitely see him as a bio boy, so I'm totally in agreement with you that there is a good chance it's bio all day, every day. But recently saw a couple of great TVTs that he had against the likes of Kalazur and Spirit, where it feels that the games are not going his way, but he's excellent with Viking, Thor, Liberator way down the line. And he's able to get a couple of very good fights, often even surprised me. He's going to split off the 3 Ravens, going to send all 3 Ravens into the main base of Oliveira, and that's going to be at least a couple of SCVs falling, but it could be more than just a couple as another turret goes down. Bit of an awkward spot to pull your SCVs to, because the Ravens were still there. Another auto turret will go down, and that is 10, 11 SCVs, and now Gabe even wants the tank. That feels a little bit ambitious. He will not get the tank, but sweet Lord, that's a lot of damage for just energy.
Yes, and there really wasn't much sacrifice for that. The Ravens were able to escape. His frontline units were destroyed, but they were the Hellions. So that's also why Oliveira kind of momentarily paused against those auto turrets, so that he was dealing with the frontline engagement. But the Ravens are now out of energy. HeroMarine is going to be on the defense, and Oliveira doesn't just have a sizable army that could go for a gut punch. He also has medevacs faster. So he could be working with mobility too, and that's something that HeroMarine really needs to guard against. That's why he's getting missile turrets. That's why his Vikings are already here. The Ravens of Oliveira running right into them, but they actually ended up landing. And now we have good old-fashioned TVT. Anti-armor missile going down. SEVs pulled. Who's going to come out on top? It looks like it's going to be a little bit of a wash. Oliveira's army will get cleaned up, but HeroMarine keeps his SEV count totally fine despite the sacrifice.
As far as I know, one of the 2 Ravens died without actually getting a single spell off. You could see Oliveira just kind of move commanding them at first. Then he tried to still get some value out of them. But I believe a Raven with a lot of energy went down. So it was only a single Raven that was able to cast those spells. And I honestly thought it was going to be an even bigger victory for Gabe than what it ended up being. But hey, Tank Viking does normally scale a little bit better than Medevac Marine Tank. Obviously, there is mobility. There is always potential with those Medevacs. And you can maybe get a cheeky drop in the main base, and then suddenly the medevacs look great and the Vikings look silly. But I think that Gabe is in a phenomenal spot here, 8 minutes in.
He's a little behind on those upgrades, and Oliveira, you know, is still trying to patrol around. But I agree. I think that gives you a nice boost leading into the mid game. You know you took it down. You know you have some time to breathe. And I do just really want to highlight, because I kind of had to do it quickly before the battle started, the missile turrets from HeroMarine. Oliveira is such a fan of these faster medevacs. So a lot of TVTs, you swap over to the reactor with the starport. You build 2 to 6 Vikings even. But then some people actually don't. They go immediately into medevacs. They get 2 and then go into medevacs, which is Oliveira, I think, got 2 Vikings. And then Oliveira is able to push you and drop you. And it's just very difficult for you to know exactly which one he's going to do and have the Vikings in the right place. So HeroMarine was very on guard against that. I really liked that touch.
His SCV is stuck. That's unfortunate. If he has a single medevac, he can still pick it up, so no need to kill it. But I would always put that on patrol zombie grub, that idle worker icon. It drives me insane. But yeah, it's definitely surprising to see Gabe set up in such defensive manner. And it's also impressive that Oliveira reacted to it so quickly by expanding on location. And he was a little slow to move there, but he does save the medevacs, and that's obviously more important than losing 1 or 2 Marines. But I love the confidence of Oliveira, where he's like, well, you're putting yourself up in a very defensive spot with that sensor tower early on, with missile turrets. Let me just go ahead and drop a 4th CC on location and get economically ahead in that regard, and that was a brilliant call.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Oliveira still reading into his opponent's reaction to him, so he is still kind of in control. But HeroMarine isn't doing anything wrong to be the defender in TVT. As long as you're not playing scared, you're just playing confident, and you understand the matchup, which HeroMarine certainly does. It's totally fine. You're going to get into the late game. That's kind of a guarantee at this point. Oliveira might have a bigger bank because of his control of the situation, but then it'll be a lot about how even the fights are.
Ooh, the armies are actually missing each other in the center of the map. Oliveira is not aware of it. HeroMarine is not aware of it. This is going to be quite something. Obviously, with Stim and all these medevacs in the mix, here we go. Oliveira is not one to hesitate. He's going to go forward immediately. Kind of ignored the tank there for a split second, but in the end, he gets the command center. HeroMarine doing the same thing on the other side of the map. The defensive liberators could be amazing there for HeroMarine, as he also has 1 or 2 tanks in the main. This is going to get crazy, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Thinking it's going to the late game, and then they just miss each other's armies, forcing the base trade. Both of them trying to get to that high ground on top of production, which is the death sentence of the Terrans. It is going to be Oliveira getting into HeroMarine's base faster, and Oliveira has actually been able to build up quite the main base force. He's going to try and push on the ramp, though. No. That's not going to work out. And we do have ourselves basically a full-on base trade. Interference Matrix will take away Oliveira's main defensive tank, allowing that freedom of HeroMarine to get into his main, and up the buildings have to go.
Yep, HeroMarine definitely needs to get forward and get on top of that tank ASAP. He finds it. There is one more tank that's going to siege up in the corner. Gets 1, if not 2 good shots off. But in the end, it will fall. The army supplies are dangerously close to each other. That makes me wonder. We have 5 Vikings left. Obviously, if all the orbitals die, you normally think that Vikings are amazing. Both of them will be able to siege from the main base onto the mineral line of the triangle base. This is wild. HeroMarine has a lot of money, so if he's able to land just a couple of these production facilities, he's actually going to be able to rebuild a somewhat decent army rather quickly. And I don't think that planetary is going to live long enough for Oliveira to make it back home, but it seems like he wants to try.
Yeah, the planetary is excellent in these base trades. You know, it usually slows things down, and if they don't have a high tank number, then it's almost invulnerable. You don't want to combat that with Marines, but yeah, in this case, HeroMarine got fast to it, tears it down, and Oliveira is just going to have to be chasing up behind him. Yeah, eventually, yeah, there you go. SCVs are targeted. Now the planetary falls. There it is. Oliveira going to be looking for a better fight, but he's down 20 army supplies, so how is that supposed to happen?
And he's also going to be the one that's going to be forced to run into HeroMarine, most likely, because HeroMarine has a mining base on the left side. It's going to take a very long time before Oliveira has it. So all that HeroMarine really needs to do is get these tanks siege up. The tanks are not siege up immediately. This is probably the only chance for Oliveira. I don't think it's going to work out. HeroMarine picks up a couple of Marines immediately, drops them on top of the tanks, and it seems that our German Terran will be able to take the 1-0 lead here over the world champion of StarCraft 2. Well done, kind of funny. I was with you, Zombie Grub. It felt like this was going to be a long one, but yeah, then they both move out at the same moment, and they somehow miss each other.
Yeah, you could argue it's a big mistake on both sides, or an understandable mistake on both sides, however you want to put it. I would say that Oliveira, he was kind of the one more in the aggressive position. He certainly wasn't expecting it from HeroMarine, and HeroMarine, well, I actually thought was going to be worse off because he only had that 1 tank sieged up, but he ended up just being able to have a better unit retention overall, I guess, and of course taking that end fight was the deal maker. But what a funky game. Base races seem to be more common lately. I don't know what it is, but HeroMarine recently played against old Oliveira, who I think was like XY or someone on his stream, and it was a crazy base race as well. So they've been all getting practice in this.
It actually felt that at first Oliveira was getting a better start to the base trade, right? Because yeah, he had that tank siege up there in the bank. He had a lot of Marines, but then he was even thinking about going to the low ground. And as you said, no, that is a mistake. And in the end, Gabe just did a very good job in evacuating the main base, get the base up and running at 9 o'clock, and he just kind of came out of it with a 15 to 20 army supply lead. And of course, in TVT, having that many Vikings, if your opponent has no Vikings, that's just almost impossible to play for Oliveira, because every time the armies get in range, the Vikings will fire, and there is nothing that he can do about it. So he's up with his back up against the wall, and he needs to make something happen, and couldn't make it happen in time.
Yeah. It is so fascinating to think about how that base race turned out the way that it was so favorable to HeroMarine. And I guess what happened was that because Oliveira could build so many units back at home, that was initially the army supply that looked fine for him, that of course got destroyed eventually. So yeah, HeroMarine couldn't produce units as long, but he also wasn't sacrificing as many units, I suppose. And that's why there was a 20 army supply lead towards the end of it. But you know, base races are always fascinating, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. But now we're on to Gresvan for a fresh start in this TVT. Now up 1, in the top left, he is HeroMarine.
In the bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of the Chinese Terran. He is down 0-1. Can he turn things around on Gresvan, the map where he played a couple of marvelous TVTs at IM Katowice? This is Oliveira.
Well, kind of from the get-go, I suppose, Oliveira didn't quite get the game that he wanted. Again, it wasn't at all bad for him after that push onto HeroMarine's third. But I do think that Oliveira at his strongest, he does that same push, and then he just constantly threatens those medevacs in the main. Medevacs in the main? No, I'm attacked on your third. No, just kidding, medevacs in the main. No, just kidding. And yeah, HeroMarine taking the fight, or just seeing the fight was available with Oliveira flying his Ravens in, really took the power out of that particular strategy. So again, the rest of the game was fine, but yeah, Oliveira probably wants to be in a little more control earlier on.
I mean, imagine that fight at the third base, since it turned out still somewhat close, if that one Raven is actually able to deploy its energy and drop a couple of auto turrets, right? Maybe the fight goes a whole lot better for Oliveira, and we'd be casting a completely different game. It all started, obviously, with HeroMarine splitting off the Ravens of his army, while he was kind of just poking a little bit in the center of the map. And Oliveira's defense against the auto turrets, I think we can say, was a bit questionable. It's almost like he expected HeroMarine to drop a single turret and go back, but yeah, the Ravens were there, all three of them. They had a lot of energy, and HeroMarine probably couldn't even believe what was happening. He's like, I can just keep on dropping auto turrets here. I'm not losing my Raven. Nothing is shooting at my Ravens. The SCVs are not truly running away. I just felt that that did a little bit more damage than it was supposed to do as well.
That's certainly true. That's certainly true. I think it was perhaps even a bit of a mind game where Oliveira would have sworn there's no way HeroMarine would not save the Raven energy because Oliveira was taking down his Hellions and revealing a stronger army that was bound to go across the map. And that's what happened. So you'd think lack of Raven energy would be an issue. And it wasn't so much, again, because Oliveira made that mistake. But yeah, he just don't expect those Ravens to keep on firing those auto turrets.
Gresvan is a really funky map in TVT. We saw a great game on it yesterday between HeroMarine and Spirit. It feels that it's one of these maps where TVT is never truly over. I have been on the wrong side of a couple of calls where I just saw no way for player A to win, and then they still win. It's just there's a lot of high ground, low ground, couple side blockers, obviously plenty of bases to take, and plenty of different ways to attack. That it really does make this a great map for TVT and amazing comebacks in that particular matchup.
Yeah, I think you explained it very well, that might be one of the reasons we consistently see good games on Gresvan. It's not just that it's a large map, which kind of encourages the chances of a great game, but there's a lot of terrain aspects to it. And this is a map that certainly has delivered a lot of weird games. I mean, thinking back to Katowice, all the TVTs were pretty darn epic, very back and forth, and I do want this to turn out that way. The first game, I guess you could say, ended abruptly because the base race was so fast and furious, but even that was, of course, very entertaining. Now we get to Gresvan, and it's actually HeroMarine who is going to be aggressive first. Medevac on the way, going to ferry over some units and do a little bit of harassment.
Yep, first Cyclone is out, second Cyclone is on the way. Curious to see, okay, this is going to pick up everything immediately and then maybe still rally some other units to the other side of the map. This could honestly be a bit dangerous for Oliveira if he does not get a proper heads up, because imagine if he ends up losing his first Cyclone and the tank, or losing the tank while the Cyclone is defending the main base. I'm actually very curious to see how this is going to play out. The lock-ons are going to be very important on either side. Oliveira still has no vision of it, does have a couple of Marines in the main base, and I think that's very good. Gets the lock-on the medevac. That means that HeroMarine is kind of committed at first, but Gabe does a great job in breaking that lock-on, but doesn't really find anything else.
Yeah, okay. I was worried that was going to get locked on. That wasn't the best opener, but it also wasn't the worst because he didn't lose the medevac and he didn't even lose the Cyclone, which can be very helpful for further engagements. But Oliveira got to be pretty happy about that defense. It's going to have the faster third CC. If we get a unit check as well, I want to see what else we might have advantageous. Oh, well, HeroMarine gets his on location, so maybe not all that much faster. Yeah, his tank count. That's why I just wanted to double check. But yeah, Oliveira's tank count going to be much better than HeroMarine's.
HeroMarine probably aware of the fact that that wasn't exactly the opening that he was hoping for, but he does feel that, okay, Cyclones are fast, they can roam the map, they can get lock-ons if you decide to send something out, and I can kind of just at least pretend that you should stay home, and that's why I can get away with a third base on location. Yeah, that 10 count advantage on the side of Oliveira is definitely a problem for the German Terran, as Oliveira also goes into very quick Viking production this time around. Well, last game, I don't think the man built a single Viking.
I didn't quite catch if it was 2 or 0, but yeah, certainly doing it now. Is going to be able to push out. The 2 Cyclones are still pretty scary, honestly. Yeah, got to be careful against that. And do we actually have HeroMarine starting up his sim? Did he actually swap off? He's currently microing, which is why I'm questioning it. Yes, okay, so he's going to go into bio. We're not going to see a potential mech game here. Yeah.
He will fire up Stim, but he's obviously kind of scared about the move out right now of Oliveira. If Oliveira is able to make it to the other side of the map with all these units, but it does seem that our Chinese Terran player is taking it easy, just wants to float over his own CC, so HeroMarine will get away with all of this and could now potentially even set up some sort of a trap, but he's still down in the 10 count, so if you're down in 10 count, you probably don't want to defend too far out on the map.
Right, yeah. Well, very typical TVT, actually. Last game, there was that change-up because Oliveira did go for the Medivacs, which had its well, didn't really have its time to shine. It kind of got slapped down. But otherwise, very similar in all of the upgrades and the production timing and the actual composition with those Vikings on the way. Oliveira currently with the big lead of Stim. That's a fair distance away from HeroMarines, and also combat shields will be favorable to the Chinese Terran. It's worth noting, but I don't know if it's going to make or break this defense, or this attack, I should say. Oliveira decides he wants to go for it, but I'm not sure that was prime. Yeah, HeroMarine's handling this super well.
Yeah, but that wasn't even a more disastrous attack than we saw on Royal Blood there. Oliveira maybe underestimating the amount of tanks HeroMarine had. Like something like that could have worked if all he needed to do was disable 2 tanks. But that fight was a straight up disaster for our Chinese Terran player. Did not get a single of the tanks there of HeroMarine. Ended up losing his Ravens and is now just in a very problematic position, because even stabilizing here is going to be difficult. The only thing that still even is the Viking count. But HeroMarine obviously still has that Raven in the mix too, so he could drop another turret, and Gabe knows that he's got Oliveira right where he wants, so he's just gonna go for it, land the Vikings. At the bare minimum is gonna get a whole bunch of SCVs. Is he able to save his tanks? He's going to unsiege the tanks, couple of Marines helping out as well, and this could very well be it for game 2, because I don't think the Vikings are going to win this fight. There are a few more Marines coming forward, but it is just not good enough for Oliveira.
No, it is not. Oliveira kind of sizing things up incorrectly. Also, I believe a little bit of a micro mistake. He let his tanks target the auto turret, which is one of the biggest reasons to throw down auto turrets. And you're supposed to, you know, as the pro gamer, not let that happen. You're supposed to focus your opponent's tank. So Oliveira, it honestly feels like he's trying to be so perfect like he was in Katowice, honestly. But even in Katowice, if we do think back to some of the earlier rounds, like versus HeroMarine, for instance, there was a lot of times where he would overestimate his ability to end a game, and it wouldn't go so well, but just everything else about the game was going fine, so Oliveira still pushed through. I'd also equate it to kind of like Hero occasionally over-aggressing, you know, blinking in when you're just like, Hero, why are you doing this? That's kind of what Oliveira is doing. There wasn't really a reason to push that issue like he did around that third base. He just thought that he would be so experienced and so savvy that there is no way that that was going to be as big of a disaster as it was. And yeah, I just Oliveira's off his game.
Yep. I mean, we can obviously mention the fact that these games are being played online, and there's a good chance that Oliveira does not have the best ping playing cross-server against the European, and ping is not always the only deciding factor in the outcome of games of StarCraft 2, but if I think of these Raven battles, I do think it is safe to say that having low latency is very important. Maybe he's struggling a bit more, but it's definitely not just the auto turrets or the matrixes he's getting down, because I think even with lower ping, that fight and those 2 armies clashing on HeroMarine's side of the map, I don't think that would have gone very well or very different in almost any universe.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't think that was a ping issue much at all. Just, yeah, overextending, classic overextending, thinking that that stim timing was more beneficial when it really is weird as far as having faster stim. That's generally, I would say, not what is often what breaks tank lines. It's having those combat shields faster, but he didn't have that then. And now just running his drop into some units. I mean, he finds a tank. That's kind of nice. And he's going to cancel the 4th command. Again, the tail end, that was a better drop.
That was supposed to be a disaster for Oliveira. In the end, he gets a tank, gets a cancel on a 4CC or 5th base rather. That was already halfway done. Not exactly sure what HeroMarine was looking at there, but make no mistake, HeroMarine is still in the driver's seat here in game 2. He's got a bigger arm, he's got a better army, and it's going to take a just heroic effort of Oliveira to stabilize in the next 2-3 minutes. Just get a bit closer to maxing out. That really is the only thing that he can hope for at this point. There are no fancy plays he can make. Solid defense is what's going to have to keep him in this game.
Which we know is very possible in TVT. I think we can kind of thank Maru for proving just how much a player can recover in this matchup. If Oliveira plans on recovering, there's basically 2 choices he makes from here on as he settled on his 4th base, and we'll see if he survives to max out. He could try and go for just consistency on production and then kind of catch HeroMarine taking a bad fight. Or he could try and play very, very late game Turtle and go into Vikings and make sure HeroMarine doesn't beat him to the punch on that. So far, it is just about survival. He's going to try and take this engagement, spread on those Marines, but that is so many tanks. And HeroMarine came in from 2 angles as well, so forget about that. No way Oliveira is going to max out.
Well, he's dropping in the main base as well, and just like that, it is 2-0 for the German Terran, who's looking ultra clean here. Gabe seems to be a big fan of that sneaky push, that blitzkrieg almost through the center onto the 3rd base, because we saw him pull that one off yesterday against Spirit as well. And that was a game, obviously, that was looking very dicey for HeroMarine, but in the end, that was the good position he got himself in, what allowed him rather, to make a great comeback in that game. In this scenario, the man did not need to make a comeback, but it's always nice to just close it out because Oliveira's supply was starting to look a bit healthier, as we can take another look at that definitely game deciding fight here on Gresvan. Only 7 minutes into the game, it's just Oliveira just did not have enough. Like, it's that simple. It was a numbers game and he did not have enough units there.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to take more looks at it to see what Oliveira might have been seeing when he did that, or where his units were supposed to be, perhaps. I'm not sure, because it is bewildering. You know, these guys are pretty freaking smart. They're pretty good at the game. And such misreads are quite rare. Like, you know, for instance, that last fight that we just saw, that highlight, that's an understandable engagement that was going to go poorly that you felt you had to take because he was behind and he thought maybe I could do this here. But of course, we knew that wouldn't end up very well. But that's the one where, like, of course, Oliveira, you know, you tried. Now, that first one was just, all of us were confused. I think even chat was confused as to why you thought that would be punishable, that defense from here would be punishable.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to the early game where he sees the medevac, he sees the double cyclone, and he's like, well, that didn't really do a whole lot. And okay, you're trying to cap a building a CC on location. I guess he saw that. And he's like, well, let's just go ahead and make some magic happen because I've got the tank advantage. But yeah, it takes a little while to make it to the other side of the map. And was this a bit of a nightmare of an engagement? This man now 1 map away from getting the job done, closing out this best of 5 and qualifying for Gamers 8. It is the German Terran legend, HeroMarine.
In the bottom right, as the Blue Terran, our current reigning world champion for DKZ, he is Oliveira.
One of the roughest series I've seen of Oliveira after IEM Katowice, because we've obviously seen him in the WTL playoffs and we saw him at a few other occasions, not too many, but even some of the series where you thought it was going to be difficult for him, for instance in the Pigsty, I think he had a pretty decent showing. He's just been looking good. This is so far not his day. Like, it's probably the least impressive Oliveira I've seen since that big W.
I'm gonna agree. I feel bad. I feel timid. I'm just like, he's like not playing well. I don't know. But that's kind of what's happening here. HeroMarine is not even playing exceptional, I would say. The base race was very good decision making and good reads and all that stuff, but he's playing as to the standard we would expect from him, which is kind of a HeroMarine thing. I feel like he's very consistently at 90% and can, you know, kind of pushes towards 100 to make it to the round of 4 of Katowice sometimes, right? I would say Oliveira is typically consistent too, but I guess when I do think sometimes of his previous matches all over the last 2 years, I guess I would expect him to sometimes dip a little bit more, down to 70 or 60% even, when you do consider the cross-server ping issues, as well as just having a bad day or a bad schedule. So we were just hoping, I think, that they would both be matching each other, you know, on their potential here today, since yesterday especially had so many great games. But you just got to be frank, it's not happening for Oliveira today.
Nope. I mentioned the Big Side tournament, and then obviously he did lose against Maru in a very one-sided best-of-7. But that's Maru, and I still felt that in those games there were some things at least going Oliveira's way. So far in both Game 1 and Game 2, very little has gone his way, other than I guess the Medevac Cyclone defense on Gresvan. But yeah, I mean, he had the right amount of units for that. I hope that he can turn it around. We know that he's capable of it. Of course, if he doesn't win here, there is no need to picnic yet. There is a good chance that he gets the job done tomorrow then, and if that wouldn't work out, he's got another shot the following week. So we don't need to panic about losing the world champ early, but I can't imagine that he's very happy with how this best of 5 is going so far. So I hope that things will start clicking for him.
Yeah, I think it might just be time. Honestly, I think if he does the first game build again and he does it the way that he likes to do it, which is gaining a little more control over the early mid game with those medevacs, kind of being the spooky player, the one that could stab you in the back at any point, I think he'll have a good time. It just, you know, it's unfortunate that turned into a base race, and well, that second game he was clearly just misreading the situation. I think basically things that he could fix, and he could find himself back in the comfort zone if HeroMarine also plays somewhat standard, and so far HeroMarine is.
Yes. I mean, Gabe is just doing Gabe things here on Babylon. We had the Widowmine opening from Oliveira. Maybe he was concerned about HeroMarine opening over a bunch of Hellions once more, just like he did on Royal Blood, and he will feel that opening over the mine is going to keep him safe. How do you like the Widowmine in TVT, Zombie?
How do I like it?
Yeah, are you a fan?
I almost never make it, but that's, you know, I'm bad. So it is interesting because we see it made, and it is that stopgap for later pushes. Combined with the ramp, I feel like Oliveira could have even been kind of greedy behind it. Yeah, now he's using it almost. He's going to just try and catch something off guard. Fair enough, but continuing my train of thought, maybe you could have tried to be like greedy off of it, right? High ground ramp, Widowmine is going to either cause them to stop or lose a unit that's very pivotal. But it's actually HeroMarine who's kind of, I feel like, getting away with a little bit more, certainly going into Marines very quickly, getting his Ravens out and then swapping immediately as well. I mean, Oliveira is certainly safe at home, and it's good to feel safe, and it's TVT, and it's still relatively even, but the Widowmine doesn't do a lot.
Be a short one though, with the double starport going down in the main base of HeroMarine. He was indeed swapping the starport, but now he's making Vikings while he's building another starport. So 2 base special once more from Big Gabriel himself. And I feel like, you know, not to bring out another meme from the past, but I rarely see this build lose.
It's a tough one. No, this is exactly what I was thinking of too when I said as long as HeroMarine is playing normal. And, you know, up till that point he was, but that's because he hadn't made the choice to throw in the starport as well as all 4 gases. So yeah, this is exactly what I'm scared of. And I in turn love that HeroMarine is doing it. If I can take away my bias for wanting to see more games or wanting to see the Oliveira do better, this is an excellent way to capitalize on a 2-0 momentum lead, especially when your opponent has shown some severe misreads, because you gotta read these situations so well against the 2 starport, when to pull the SCVs, where to hold the attack, how to hold the attack, and it's so likely it's not going to be scouted, so it is going to be coming down to those split-second decisions.
Yep, and I also feel that Gabe doesn't even necessarily truly have to push in. Like, you can just get an amazing setup going and get a very strong contain, and then you can always maybe transition out of it yourself. But at first, obviously, HeroMarine is going to try to get some value out of all these Vikings and the extra tanks that he has. Oliveira is moving a little bit towards the bottom, is now moving the units back in, so it seems that he wants to defend at the bottom of his ramp at first, but obviously this is not something he can do forever. There are 6 Vikings out for HeroMarine and 0 Vikings on the map for Oliveira, and I love that one very early Liberator. I think this is a great build by HeroMarine. He does land his Vikings rather quickly, and all hell is about to break loose.
The auto turret's looking a bit favorable towards HeroMarine, though, and that was the only thing Oliveira was going to have, right, is the massive amount of auto turrets from his triple Raven, and that didn't work out. So now the SCVs are pulled after you already lost the fight. HeroMarine looking to close up 3-0. SCVs can be a bit painful, I guess, as anything that supports them as they surround the tanks can be helpful, but yeah, you're not recovering from this. There it is, HeroMarine with a very convincing 3-0.
Wow, the double starport, 2 base opening from Gabe, getting the job done there. Oliveira trying to defend at the bottom of his ramp. And I have to give kudos to that very early lip, right? Because often they have the tank advantage, they have the Viking advantage, but then it's still kind of awkward and it takes a little while. But with that liberated, you just put the clock on your opponent immediately. Oliveira thought that he could get a somewhat decent trade there and then he could stabilize afterwards on the high ground. But Gabe left no stone unturned, just went through it, walked up that ramp, and awfully, surprisingly one-sided series. HeroMarine gets the job done. He qualifies for Gamer 8, and we'll see what Kalaris and the boys at the desk have to say about it.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a little bit shocked here. A very swift 3-0. HeroMarine being able to qualify, as Rotterdam mentioned. Fear Dragon, Cats joining me. Fear Dragon, I mean, where do we begin? HeroMarine looked great in this series. He was really crossing all his T's and dotting all of his I's.
Yeah, I really like what they were saying toward the end of that last game, where it really just feel like HeroMarine was able to capitalize not only on the momentum in that last game, but also just the fact that Oliveira seemed to be getting a lot of misreads. And I think that's actually a really good strength of HeroMarine. When he plays, he's really good at identifying like the right build orders to pick for particular players, particular matchups, particular days and everything. I don't know how he does it, but he just seems to have, you know, alongside that massive body comes an even bigger brain. And he just really was able to utilize it that series.
One sec. Yeah, Cats, what do you think about that game? Any thoughts regarding that?
Yeah, I mean, Big Gabe looked gargantuan in this matchup. Titanic, some would say. Well, you cannot fit him even in the Kalaris dome, which is massive. So, yeah, he looked amazing. And, I mean, that third game was so very cool on the execution as well. We saw him try a build like that one in the third game yesterday, and I don't think he had as much success. But this time around, like Roddy said, incorporating the Liberator makes a lot of sense because you're going to guarantee air control, and the best thing to do, especially early on with air control, is gonna be that Liberator to displace the tanks from position and potentially to kill the tanks even. But what I loved even more is that Big Gabe saw, okay, there's only 2 Vikings, you're not biting for air control, so I'm just gonna land everything, right? Yeah. And I thought that was a beautiful decision for him because just identifying the flexibility of his build, it's not the type of build where, okay, I committed too much to air and now you're gonna have a greater ground army. No, these guys can actually land, and he is ready to make that decision right away and pounce on his opponent, and he looked clean as can be.
Yeah, the second look over towards game 3 as well. I mean, Fear Dragon, this triggered double starport reaction coming out from HeroMarine, and from there on, looked pretty clean cut. Did we lose Fear Dragon?
We lost Fear Dragon.
Okay, Cats, talk to me about this game. Yeah.
No, I could actually hear Fear Dragon. We lost the super Fear Dragon. Oh. I could hear normal Fear Dragon. I can't hear him. No, really? I can't hear him. Not presently, no. Oh, it's probably because he fixed his...
It's because we made fun of the deep Fear Dragon.
Yeah, so he had to fix it. And now we're back to normal Fear Dragon.
Should have just left it, and he would have just been deep the whole segment.
Seriously.
I screwed up. Great. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
I can hear Ravi.
Look, can I hear Ravi as the guy? He's gone. Well, no, apparently no, I can't. So, but I mean, again, you know, it's surprising to me, Cats, that Oliveira goes down 3-0 in this. Yes, HeroMarine is an excellent 2v2 player. We even saw that yesterday against Spirit. We've seen it in multiple occasions, constantly, because he's always playing. But yeah, I expected a little bit more of a fight coming out from Oliveira.
No doubt. But like Roddy said, maybe there's some ping issues. Maybe he's not in his best form today, right? I think if they replay this tomorrow, I would still think that this is a more or less 50-50 matchup. But sometimes 50-50 matchups can just sway in the favor of the player gaining momentum over the first couple of games. So just great job by Big Gabe here. And yeah, unfortunate for Oliveira.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we can look at the... Oh, I can hear Fear Dragon.
Oh my God. Have I finished my puberty?
Well, I mean, it depends which way you're going. But yeah, yes, I can hear you, Fear Dragon, so that's good stuff. Fear Dragon, do you have any thoughts regarding this series?
I thought it was a really great series, and hopefully production can hear me because apparently, we're back. Hello. I just thought it was a really, I kind of talked about it before, but I thought it was a masterclass by HeroMarine. Just his decision making of when to just go for it across the map and find those little windows, the small little windows of opportunity, the build order choice and everything. Really impressive from HeroMarine. Even though it was a 3-0 there for HeroMarine, I still think Oliveira's playing really well this event, so I do want to give some credit to him. Is like the last note that I have on that.
All right, well, let's take a look at the bracket then here, gentlemen, and break down what we've seen here today. Not technically the Korean bracket, that's already been done and dusted. However, we now have 2 players from the EPT bracket moving on. Cyril earlier in a 3-0 and HeroMarine in a 3-0. Honestly, guys, I thought I was going to get home maybe at about 10 or 11 p.m. It's currently not even 8 cats. What is going on? We speedran today quite quickly at Gamers Without Borders.
Yeah, I mean, today was not a great day for StarCraft, to be honest. Yesterday it was fantastic, but today the game's overwhelming on one side, on the winner side of things. So a little bit disappointing, but I think tomorrow, if we can get what we got yesterday, continue to tune in because it's been fantastic StarCraft yesterday. Today, sometimes you gotta take the loss.
Yeah, the ebbs and flows of it. I think, I'm hopeful for tomorrow. Let's take a look at that lower bracket as well, because Oliveira will be going up against either Reina or Showtime, and of course, Special will go up against either Lambo or Spirit here, Fear Dragon. So some good fixtures to come, I think.
No, absolutely. I'm really interested to see how that Showtime versus Rainer match is going to go. I think a lot of people still favor Rainer coming to that. But Showtime, even though he ended up losing to Cyril, showed some really great PvZ against Cyril. It was just that Cyril played like freaking Cyril, so it's hard to make a whole lot happen. And then I think it's going to be kind of a redemption arc there for Lambo to showcase that he can, in fact, play up. And it was just a little bit of a rough start that day. Whereas Spirit, I think Special, both of them really impressed me, both yesterday and today.
All right, well, there you go. And those are the matches that we're going to see tomorrow. We only have 2 series left in the Korean bracket, and then we will have 4 series left here in the EPT bracket. But so far, so good today, Cats. I mean, as we say, some quite one-sided games, but still some interesting StarCraft. We do have HeroMarine, I'm getting word, so we can probably head on over to that interview here and ask him a few questions here and there, and then I can also check if you guys can hear him and I can hear him. So let's see how this goes. Hello, HeroMarine, can you hear me? Good start.
Uh-oh.
Can HeroMarine hear Cats or Fear Dragon? Let's test.
Hello. Can you hear me, Gabriel?
Hello?
None of us. No. All right, we're skipping. Good job, HeroMarine. That was a sick interview.
Did you kick his camera out? That's amazing. That was incredibly timed.
There is no mercy in the Kalaris Dome, okay? Let's put it that way. If we can't hear us,
we should drop him from under you. You know how there's that little opening there?
I know.
The camera should be dropped there. Yeah.
Would
have been cool. Yeah.
Rough stuff. Great stuff from HeroMarine. Thank you for. I mean, actions speak louder than words. Ultimately, 3-0 against the world champion. We'll take it. All right, guys. Final thoughts on the day, Fear Dragon. It's been a quick day.
Yeah, I mean, just echoing the same sentiments that yesterday was incredible StarCraft games that were really close, and I think that like the motto or like the theme of yesterday's games was someone gets ahead, but then the game just gets completely turned on its head and it becomes really close and fun. Today was just a little bit more one-sided, but I actually think that that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world because the cool thing with this format is we get to see a lot of the players that didn't get to show the best games today.
Yeah.
Show more games tomorrow. Guys,
Guess what's about to happen?
What?
We're about to resummon HeroMarine to try for... I'm getting mixed messages here, guys. All right.
Maybe close the Kalaris Dome. Maybe there's too much echo because the Kalaris Dome is open, but there's a way to close it.
Look, right, okay, I'm getting word that there's a glitch in the Kalaris Dome, okay? We're done for today. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Kaz, you've been great as well. Fear Dragon, you've been great as well. Kalaris, you did all right. We're done for day number 2. A huge thank you to everybody tuning in around the world. We are done for today. Tomorrow we are back, same time, same place, for 6 more...
Hello, Gabe. Can you hear us?
Yeah, now it's working. Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
Sorry.
you throw me a bone production? All right, okay. Hi, Gabe. How are you doing? Are you feeling good? Feeling fresh? You just 3-0 the world champ? Doing good?
Yeah, it went pretty well, pretty good today. Much better than yesterday.
Cool. You know what, Cats? Do you have a question? I'm frazzled.
Yeah, I'm frazzled as well. Like, we've tried this so many times. But Gabe, you played incredible, obviously, today. This opening with the double starport, like, is that a new development that you've seen more often in TVT? And what do you attribute it to? Let's begin with that.
Well, I don't really want to talk about it too much.
Ooh, okay.
I can't comment on that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
It's not good at all times, but if you use it in the right moment, it's very good.
Yeah, then I guess onto specifics about that third game, because we've seen you do two different versions of that build. Like, I understand you don't want to reveal too much of the ins and outs of it, but obviously there's some flexibility comparing yesterday to today. Yesterday you made more Vikings. I think today you added that Liberator, and your opponent kind of didn't go for the air control, right? He only made the 2 Vikings. When do you decide to land the Vikings? Is it just upon seeing the lack of air control from your opponent, or is there something else that tells you let's go, like the turrets, the Ravens?
He was retreating in the last game, so I landed the Vikings. Like, usually if you siege forward slowly with like the Liberator, it can get annoying. They might get a good fight, but in this case, I like to just push it like as far or as quickly as I can. So the moment he like unsieged 2 tanks, and he also unsieged them pretty like I sieged the Liberator, and he was like pretty much waiting for like the last moment possible. So my Liberator maybe got like barely 1 hit off the tank. Like he really waited for like the last moment to unsiege there to kind of buy as much time. But then because he retreated, it was like 2 tanks were unsieged. The other tank I could overpower. But mainly I decide on whether I have enough DPS. So in this case, I went for a build that involves like a really fast Raven. So I had more Raven energy, and I had more Marines, I think, as well, or at least even. And he was in a retreating position. So if you give the other guy so much space, like me, to like throw down all these auto turrets, and then also to land the Vikings, because you need space for that. If there's no space, then the Vikings will like derp when you land them. But if there's like nothing on the ground, they just land immediately. So if you pick the right moment in that case, they don't derp, and it's like very important they don't. You know how like if you like stack up Vikings and below them there's like Marines or auto turrets, you don't land properly. They like go to the side, then try to land or arrow, try to land again. And if that's not the case, and if he's retreating like he did, then I think that kind of adds up. And also obviously I went for 2 base all in, he went for 3 base. He was not supposed to have more units.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just a final question, I guess, on that. Would you ever consider disabling the tanks as the Liberator sieges onto them? Or is that not something that you were willing to do? Or was that an opportunity missed, or by design, I guess?
Honestly, I don't know. I think the disabled is usually good, like better than auto turret. In this case, he didn't have much DPS, and I think the only reason to throw down auto turrets is if to like deny the other guy's auto turret, because that's the same like landing the Vikings. Like, I'm trying to basically steal all his space so he can't land turrets himself. So I'm like the initiator, so I take the engagement, I throw down my auto turrets and land my Vikings, and then he has like no space to drop down his own auto turrets, and I get like so much more DPS just because I initiate that fight like that.
Beautiful, thank you so much.
Quite the comprehensive breakdown. Fear Dragon, do you have a question? Or
Yeah, just one kind of quick question, which is, I know that you've had like an interesting back and forth with Oliveira, especially like at Katowice and stuff, between groups and like the playoffs and everything. Was there any like sort of philosophy or anything that you had approaching this series versus Oliveira? Because you looked really strong in it, and you look like you really had his goat, I guess, in this series. So did you kind of come in thinking like, oh, I'm going to make sure that I do this and don't do like this kind of thing?
Yes, actually, I mean, he's a world champion, and he deserves to win that tournament. However, like to me, I wouldn't consider him like as scary as someone like Moore, for example. To me, I would put him on like Well, he has played actually pretty well recently, and just because like he usually beats me. I think he has like a 70%, maybe a little more record against me. Now I got a win, so maybe it's gonna even out eventually. Like he won against me at IEM, so I think overall he's like kind of on my level, and I always feel comfortable playing against people that or let's put it that way, I feel comfortable if there's no pressure, and since he's the world champion, and just because he won that tournament, I wouldn't say he like suddenly got that much better. I would definitely say put him above me, not just because he won the IEM, but also because his level of play has been increasing. Like after IEM, when he played in like World Team League and stuff like that, he's looked very, very good. Definitely improved, but I'm usually not a believer that like someone who used to be, let's say, top 20, top 15, I always rated him pretty high, player in the world, like suddenly becomes like the best player in the world by just winning one tournament.
Yeah.
And I think that mindset really helped because I was playing my A game in all of the games. And usually I struggle against people that I'm not too familiar with. But in this case, I think I got very familiar with him now. So I had a much more much clearer mindset just because since he won IEM, he had way more pressure on him than I had on me. Yeah, that definitely helped.
Nice. I like that. I like the shift in mentality there. Cool. Thanks.
Fair. And actually, I mean, obviously you've had to go through Terran after Terran. You went up against Spirit before that. I mean, when you weigh up the two matches and how these go, how did you kind of look at the Spirit matchup? Because obviously he took you a little bit further than I would say Oliveira did.
Yeah, well, Spirit definitely improved since the last patch as well. I mean, we all saw that. And yeah, like I shouldn't really be here. I feel like I shouldn't be talking because like that second game yesterday against Spirit after I was down 1-0, like that's like a game I should have like never won.
Right.
So I got a little bit lucky, I think, to even be here now. I would say I played today much better than yesterday.
Okay.
And I would also say that in best of fives, I'm better than in best of threes usually. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Yeah.
Fair play. Well, thank you very much for joining us here, HeroMarine. Do you have any final words or shout-outs to give to your team, fans, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm just happy to be able to play in a tournament that's, I mean, obviously shout out to my team. They're always there for me.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for this tournament because not only my team, but also these kind of tournaments give me an opportunity to play StarCraft full time and make it worth it now that I qualify. I will travel to the offline event, and since the offline event will be pretty much prize pool wise as big as IEM Katowice, it will be another opportunity for me to win one of the bigger events. And in the last IEMs it looked pretty good whenever I had time to prepare and I was really motivated. I feel like that's going to be the same for this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're hearing similar things from players moving on to the tournament itself. So thank you very much, HeroMarine, for joining us. Congratulations for qualifying. We'll see you in Riyadh.
See you.
Awesome stuff. All right. After 3 attempts, we got there. Somehow, some way. All right, gentlemen, that does it for today. I'm done. You're done. We managed to get a screen in the Clara Dome big enough for Mr. HeroMarine, and that is everything. Thank you guys for tuning in to day number 2 of Gamers Without Borders. Tomorrow we're back same time, same place. 6 more best of 3s or 5s, depending on which ones we're covering, and it is done. We'll see you tomorrow for more StarCraft action. Bye for now.